Hi, everyone. I'm the host of the AreYouAnnie podcast, Kyle Hackley, attorney, author of Undercurrent, where we explore Annie's journey through narcissistic abuse and beyond. And let me be clear, Annie is any woman and any man who has ever experienced narcissistic abuse. I think that there are a lot of people who think that once you leave the narcissist, the abuse is over. And I think that misunderstanding is a tough one to take. I'm wondering how often a friend has said to you, well, now you can simply get on with your life now that you've left. And I would like to see you cut yourself some slack here. Yes, of course you're going to come back and better than ever, but it will happen. It just is going to happen over time. The truth is, you may still find yourself in the thick of things because even after you escape, the damage stays with you. After you leave, you still may feel the insecurities. After all, those insecurities have been woven into your thoughts, your self-perception, and even your decision-making. In this episode, we're breaking down the insidious effects of narcissistic abuse, the way it slowly dismantles your identity, why just leaving isn't an instant fix, and the subtle tactics that you have probably been subjected to for a very long time. So don't expect your healing to occur the moment you walk away. It's going to happen over time, and it will happen when you start to see the truth. This is about walking through fire to get to the other side of narcissistic abuse. It's about picking up the pieces of who you are and reclaiming your power. Narcissistic abuse isn't one big obvious event. It's a series of tiny, calculated manipulations that erode confidence and identity over time. You, or the person in the grip of the narcissist, doesn't realize what's happening because each act is so minor and can even be excusable. By the time you recognize something's wrong, you're already doubting your own perception and reality. So I have a question. How many people have asked you, why don't you just leave this person? That will certainly fix it. And I know that question is so hard to hear and it's harder to answer. Let's face it. What happened isn't going to change overnight. Self-doubt isn't going to disappear in a day. It was implanted over years. The brain of the person who has been caught in the grip of narcissistic abuse needs time to rewire after prolonged gaslighting, manipulation, and emotional exhaustion. You can think of it this way. It's like walking into the ocean. At first, the water's shallow and everything seems fine, but with every step forward, the tide is pulling a little harder and harder. And before you realize it, you're deep, struggling to keep your footing. That's what happens. The changes are so gradual that by the time you recognize that you're in danger, you're already pulled under. Many abuse tactics are very subtle. They can even go unnoticed. The ones that keep you constantly confused and questioning your reality. One tactic is something that some people may not even think of, and it's sleep deprivation. The narcissist wakes up their partner at odd hours during the night for trivial things. Did you hear that noise? Oh, did you go to the grocery store today? I forgot to ask you. And maybe just picking a fight just as the partner is trying to go to sleep, or they wake them up to start a fight and then they can't go back to sleep. That constant disruption from sleep will weaken anybody's ability to think clearly and maintain strong emotional control. Another narcissistic tact is sabotaging the partner's confidence in decision-making. It's something simple. They ask you to make a simple decision, but then they're going to criticize you. Are you sure that that's the right move? Are you sure that that's the right way to do it? One moment the narcissist can be loving and kind, the next cold and distant. That's another tactic. And it works for the narcissist because it keeps the partner off balance. It's just another way of creating self-doubt. Another way, and this is creating uncertainty, is just dropping small hints about other people's opinions. Well, even my mom thinks you overreact sometimes. Well, everybody thinks I'm funny except for you because you can't take a joke. It keeps a person in the narcissistic grip feeling like they are the problem. It keeps them isolated. And of course, there's another tactic, and that involves finances. And I'm not talking about stealing or hiding money. It's just another subtle control tactic. I prefer you not get involved in our financial accounts because you'll make a mistake and then everything will turn into a mess. You know, it's easy to spot someone who's screaming at you, of course, but what about when they just forget to do something and they force you to pick up the slack? What about when they jokingly criticize you in front of others and you just have to laugh it off? These tiny moments add up and they're not accidents. When you finally leave the narcissist, there's a sense of relief, of course, but there's also so much confusion and self-doubt. You can't expect the fog to lift right away when you leave because your brain has been trained now to question itself. You may even feel guilty for leaving for any number of reasons, but especially if you've taken a child out of the household, you might struggle to make some basic decisions. And that's normal because the narcissist has probably controlled almost every aspect of the household and your life. And then, of course, there's that terrible feeling that maybe you were at fault all along. Here's a rather dramatic way to think of it, but I think it's true. If someone were to lock you in a cage for years and then suddenly opens the door, do you sprint out or do you hesitate? Are you going to be unsure if you even know how to survive outside? Well, I think that's what leaving a narcissist feels like. So you need to expect to take time and rebuild after the abuse. And awareness is a good first step. The more you recognize these tactics, the less power the narcissist is going to have. Self-trust takes time to rebuild. You are not crazy. The damage is real, but healing is possible. And support matters if you can get it. If you can talk to a therapist who is educated and understands narcissistic abuse, then do that. If there's a support group of others who have suffered narcissistic abuse, and if you have a trusted friend, somebody who just believes you, that will help. You or the one who is in the abuser's grip may feel powerless for a while, but that's only because you've been conditioned to believe that. The moment that you can start seeing the truth, that's when your power will return. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experience in the comments or just reach out. That's why AreYouAnnie exists. So when you share your story, you're not just speaking for yourself. I think you're lighting the way for someone else. So to every Annie out there, every man and woman who has shared a comment, who has found even a little bit of validation through this podcast, I see you and I appreciate you. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. I really do believe that in doing so, you could very well help another Annie find us. And remember, you're not just someone in the grip of a narcissist. You're not just a survivor. You are a warrior against narcissistic abuse. And never forget that you are stronger than you know. that I want you to be tenacious and never give up on what you believe in. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. And until next time.